In a distant valley, where the winds howled and thatch-roofed cottages nestled against the hills, a family toiled in the earth, their hands calloused and weary, much like any other family of their kind. With wooden spoons in hand, rough-spun cloaks draped over their shoulders, and a goat that seemed to have a personality of its own, they held dear the treasures that the storms had yet to take from them. As the clouds gathered, the rain commenced, just as it always had before. Silence, calm and unwavering, a soft murmur among the golden stalks. Yet in this realm, as the wind wailed from the east and the heavens darkened to a deep bruise by midday, the villagers understood the river was destined to swell. And so it came to pass. The relentless rain drummed upon the thatched roofs, seeping through the fragile layers of straw and mud. It transformed floors into shimmering puddles and walls into absorbent sponges. They carefully packed sheep's wool into the crevices, hung vibrant tapestries to capture the drips and drops, gave the dripping buckets names, as if they were cherished companions from days gone by. Help was nowhere to be found. There is no ruler accompanied by warriors. There was no church procession to be found. Only the two of them. In the shadow of the barn, the fields had succumbed to a relentless, swirling tide, while the animals sought refuge in the loft, bewildered and trembling. As the initial barrier crumbled, silence enveloped them. Time slipped away like sand through fingers. The elderly woman took hold of the infant and a flickering torch. With a sense of adventure, the children ascended the long table, the sole piece of furniture sturdy enough to buoy them if the moment rose. The man pushed sacks of grain against the doorway, attempting to create a barrier that would prove useless, his voice rising above the tempest of rain and the groaning timbers that signaled the house was losing its grip on the ground. The rear wall erupted with a sound reminiscent of an ox's final exhale, a deep and resonant groan that echoed through the air. Water surged in, fierce and untamed, carrying away straw, firewood, and chickens into a whirlwind of disorder. With a soft sigh, the flames surrendered to the night. The goat let out a piercing cry. Ah, but what of the people? They journeyed forth, not with trepidation but with passion. They stood on the precipice, unprepared for what lay ahead. They were always caught off guard. Yet, they breathed with life. As the house began to tilt, they chose to leave it behind. They moved through the darkness, the mud clinging to their legs as if the very earth were reaching out to ensnare them. Barefoot, no cloaks, all that they bore, little ones, flickering lights, and unwavering determination. They discovered refuge in the grain shed atop the hill, a stone structure resilient against the elements, and nestled within its walls like timid mice hiding from the watchful eye of a hawk. The elderly woman whispered her prayers, her teeth chattering softly in the chill of the air. The man positioned himself by the door, clutching a knife and a damp torch, ever watchful for the lurking wolves or something far more sinister. That night, the storm raged on without pause, neither the one that follows. Yet, deep inside, a transformation occurred. Once more, the sound of children's laughter filled the air. With a sense of wonder, they transformed scraps of cloth and bones into their own cherished playthings. In her hands, the woman transformed a simple barrel into a gentle cradle, while a piece of bark became a ladle, each creation telling a tale of resourcefulness and care. In the quiet corners of the rafters, herbs hung to dry, their fragrant whispers weaving tales of the earth and sun. They prepared a humble meal using the few ingredients available, placing them on stones warmed by the flickering flames. And the man, who had once been silent, started to hum the ancient melodies his father would sing while repairing boots under the glow of the moon. As the tempest faded into memory, the dwelling had vanished, leaving only whispers of its presence. Yet there stood a hill, untouched by the flood's relentless advance. They constructed once Morennet out of pride, but through perseverance, stones rise, encasing tighter than before, a roof that slanted perfectly, As if crafted by the hands of fate, the neighbors arrived, as is the way of those who learn from the land's gentle lessons of humility. United, they lifted beams with their own strength, pounded stakes with borrowed tools, and broke bread as if in sacred fellowship. Silence enveloped the memories of what had vanished. They recounted the remnants that remained. Young ones, once there was a flicker, a spark that danced in the darkness. Once upon a time, there was a simple loaf of bread, one another, and as the seasons turned, the new house emerged not imposing, not lavish, but steadfast. The rain continued to fall, yet it no longer held any fear, for they had discovered the essence of significance. That dwelling was not crafted from timber and fleece. In the shadows, whispers danced, hands reached through the depths, and joy emerged from sorrow. And thus, their lives unfolded, amidst the deluge, amidst the chill, through each season that life cast their way. For storms have the power to sweep away the very roof above us, yet not the hearth. In the aftermath of the great storm, the days unfolded like a canvas brushed with muted hues of gray. Wisping tendrils of smoke danced from the moist kindling. The mud embraced every hem, a testament to the journey taken, and silence enveloped the valley, casting a weighty stillness as if it were a decree. Yet, as dawn broke on the third morning, a shift was felt in the air, a whisper of noise. It was not the rumble of thunder, not shedding tears, joyful echoes of mirth. It ascended gently, a whisper at first, from the grain shed perched upon the hill. Within those walls, the family that had weathered the flood now moved not with trepidation, but with a sense of determination. The old man, once hunched from a lifetime of toil at the plow, now stood with a newfound stature as he meticulously sorted through fragments of reclaimed timber. With every nail he straightened using a rock, he proclaimed his rebellion. With every plank he hoisted up the hill, he waged a silent war against hopelessness. It all started when he caught sight of the baby once more, nestled in slumberously cheek and Suriname the barrel cradle by the hearthstone they had shaped from an old mill wheel. In that moment, a fracture formed deep within him, not from sorrow, but from a new beginning. He came to understand they had endured the darkest night of their existence, not through mere chance, but guided by an innate sense of survival. And that instinct had blossomed into a refined craft, into resilience. The woman his wife had already sketched a plan in the dirt with a charred stick, her vision taking shape beneath the open sky. In her cleverness, she discovered a method to guide the runoff water through the ditches that lay beside the hedgerow. She suspended herbs from the rafters to dry, crafting remedies for the children's coughs with warm onion tea. Though her hands bore the marks of toil, her voice remained unwavering. The children, as well, had transformed. The eldest, just shy of his 10th year, took it upon himself to stand guard through the night, armed with a slingshot and a pouch filled with stones. As the sun dipped low, a group of companions busied themselves with small tasks. Some collected twigs, others mended their tattered tunics, while one gently comforted the goat, still shaken from its near-drowning experience. They had transcended the bounds of childhood. They belonged to a group dedicated to enduring against all odds. One morning, as he sifted through the remnants below, the man stumbled upon something intriguing, a fragment of the family's ancient doorframe. Upon it lay a delicate carving, their initials, lovingly etched in the tender embrace of the first spring they had called the valley home. With a careful hand, he polished it until it gleamed, his gaze lingering on it as if searching for meaning. After a moment of contemplation, he turned and made his way back up the slope, securing it firmly above the entrance of the grain shed. That was the moment everything changed. Not when assistance arrived. No one did. Not when the rain ceased, it hadn't. Not in essence. Yet, in that moment of awakening, they discovered they were not merely enduring. They were crafting anew. In that instant, the world transformed. In time, the shed transformed into a sanctuary, meals transformed into sacred ceremonies, every repair transformed into a triumph. The old woman started to weave her tales once more of her younger days, of hunger, of the bitter cold, of all the trials they had endured. And she beamed as she spoke. With or without her teeth, the man crafted a new table from weathered beams and declared, "This time, we shall reach greater heights." No one dared to challenge his words. When the storm had swept away all, it unveiled what no deluge could touch, their indomitable spirit. It arrived unannounced, wrapped in a shroud of quietude. On the 7th day after the storm, the sun playfully peeked into the valley for the very first time. It cautiously emerged from the fractured clouds, shimmering upon puddles and drenched fields, bringing warmth to the faces of those who dared to dream. In the grain shed, the family buzzed with a careful sense of delight. The aroma of baking bread filled the air, flat and heavy, yet undeniably inviting. Once upon a time, a man was diligently hammering together a drying rack, each strike of the hammer echoing with purpose and intent. Even the goat appeared to be in higher spirits, munching on hay as if it hadn't let out a blood-curdling scream just a week prior. Yet, in the ancient realm, hope frequently strolled alongside peril. That afternoon, as the eldest child ventured to fetch water from the dwindling well, he felt a subtle change in the air around him. A tranquil pause, a weighty stillness enveloped the air, an unsettling tranquility that felt utterly out of place. Silence enveloped the scene as the birds fell silent. Silence enveloped the valley as the familiar rustle of the wind faded into stillness. Suddenly, a subtle quiver danced beneath his feet. With a sudden clatter, the pail fell from his grasp. In the grain shed, the man sensed it as well, a deep, resonant groan, as if the very earth was preparing to speak. Having dwelled beside the hills for many seasons, they understood the significance of that sound all too well. It was something else entirely. It was not the weather that shaped the tale. The mountain stirred, a subtle movement in its ancient form. The tempest, it appeared, had not just inundated the earth that had set it free. The majestic incline above their cherished homestead had stood firm for generations, anchored by sturdy trees and time-worn stones. Yet, as the days of rain unfolded, the roots found themselves growing frail. The earth had transformed into a thick, sludgy mixture, and now it stirred to life. Once upon a time, a landslide unfolded. A piercing cry echoed as the boy raced down the slope, his arms flailing wildly in the air. The hill is approaching. And so it was. A relentless surge of mud, boulders, and shattered trees swept through the valley's edge, moving not with haste, but with an unmistakable certainty. The trail of devastation veered near the grain shed, brushing against it dangerously near. He acted without a second thought. He took action. Out, into the embrace of the trees. Depart at once. Out of the shed they came, a whirlwind of excitement and energy. The woman held the baby tenderly, while the children dashed about with bare feet, and the elderly woman was gently supported and pulled along by her eager grandchildren. The goat trailed behind, a silent companion, determined not to be abandoned. As they moved forward, the shed quivered, responding to the tremors of the earth beneath. The hill unleashed its wrath, pulling the fragments of the once cherished home deeper into despair. Entombing tools, memories, and remnants of grain beneath a shroud of soil. As they approached the trees, the slide's edge met the hill's base in a moment of perfect timing. And then, once more, silence enveloped the scene. With breaths heavy and hearts pounding, they turned to behold it, a fresh scar etched across the land. Wide and raw, the shed remained, a weary sentinel, leaning as if caught in a moment of unsteady revelry, yet resolutely holding its ground. A wondrous event. Yet, it was not the shed that left them speechless, it was the secret that the landslide had unearthed. At the pinnacle of the ridge lies a steadfast patch of solid rock, lofty and pristine, standing resilient above the floodplain. far removed from the whims of shifting earth, a flawless setting, a realm they had yet to summon into existence, overwhelmed by distance, vulnerability, and the weight of effort. Yet, in this moment, the truth unveiled itself. The tempest had claimed their sanctuary. The earth had come perilously close to seizing their second chance. And so it was that in the effort to vanquish them, nature bestowed upon them a remarkable treasure, the ideal soil from which to rise anew. With the dawn breaking, they ascended the hill. Their boots sank into the mud and ash. Yet each step was filled with confidence. Each bore their burdens baskets filled with treasures, old nails that whispered tales of the past, and a dented pot of porridge, a humble offering of sustenance. The infant nestled in a sling on the mother's back, while the goat ambled alongside, exuding an air of unexpected nobility, as if it to recognize the profound beauty of the scene unfolding before them. At the peak, they lingered in quietude. The earth below them was a patchwork of textures, cloaked in a soft layer of moss and the fading traces of winter's grasp. Once, it was deemed too distant from the well, too exposed to the wind, too challenging to clear. Yet, in this moment, it lay barren, sturdy, untouched by the hands of flood or slide. It remains a sanctuary of serenity, a realm not defined by ease but by potential. With a graceful motion, the man knelt down, his palm meeting the earth in a moment of connection. Here, he proclaimed, with eager hearts, the children set to work, collecting stones from the periphery and carefully stacking them to define the borders of their newfound sanctuary. The woman sketched the layout in the dirt with a stick, outlining a hearth in one spot and a cozy sleeping corner in another. They refrained from discussing magnificence. Simply exist, a refuge from the storm, a realm for flames to dance, for nourishment to be shared, for rest to embrace, and for joy to echo. As the sun reached its zenith, the tale commenced. There are no blueprints, without a watchful eye, only recollection and strength. A wall of stones gradually emerged uniform, rugged, yet resilient. The man guided the eldest in the art of aligning beams. The woman demonstrated to the others the art of binding thatch more securely, ensuring it would withstand the rain's relentless assault. Even the old woman perched upon a stump, deftly threading twine through aged cloth for insulation, muttering that no dwelling ought to rise without a rightful place for the bread oven. They paused to share a humble meal of root stew and bark tea, nestled in the shade of what would eventually become their entrance. And that was the moment the others arrived. Once upon a time, there was a shepherd boy from the ridge, clutching a coil of rope and wearing a shy grin. Once there was an elderly widow, surrounded by her clucking chickens and an abundance of eggs. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, the gathering grew to 10 friends, family, and even wanderers on their journey, each arriving with gifts in hand, pieces of wood, spare nails, sturdy backs, and eager hands ready to lend their strength. None of them sought a single coin. None of them hesitated to step forward. They seamlessly became part of the tale. In that era and setting, community transcended mere convenience. It was a sacred bond. As dusk settled, the silhouette of the home rose majestically against the fading light of the horizon. The tale was still unfolding. Amidst the gaps and crooked angles, a sense of reverence enveloped those toiling under the waning sun. As if the very air whispered secrets of the sacred, the children twirled joyfully across the floor beams, their bare feet tapping in rhythm as they called out names for the new house: Stone Hearth, Goat Hill, Sky Nest. The mother chuckled with delight. The father beamed with joy. They were weary bit in that delightful, poignant manner that arises from genuine labor and a common goal. This was not a process of reconstruction. It was a new beginning. From the ashes rose not merely existence, but a doorway to possibility, a moment to forge not the life they once knew, but the life they now genuinely desired. As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky above their hilltop, the family nestled together in blankets beneath the framework of their new home. enveloping them like a warm embrace. Time flowed on. Week by week, the new home emerged gently, not with bold proclamations, but through steadfast determination. With each passing day, a fresh layer emerged, timber laid down, stones carefully ranged, thatch intricately woven. The air lingered, heavy with echoes of the past of flood, of mud, of all that had slipped away. But the family's actions had transformed. They had transcended the role of mere survivors. They toiled as craftsmen, shaping the very foundations of dreams. The manant's burdened by worry, his eyes heavy with the weight of sleepless nights, had transformed into a figure anew. With each step, he moved with purpose, his voice unwavering and clear. He guided the children in the art of driving pegs without splitting the wood, showing them how to read the sun's angle to select the warmest wall. Yet, it was not merely talent he imparted, it was a sense of unwavering calm. As the youngest struggled to lift the heavy beam, the man knelt beside him, resting a gentle hand on his shoulder, and spoke in a soothing tone. "We don't build fast, we create authenticity." The woman had transformed as well. Within her burned a quiet flame, one that eluded the eye yet resonated deeply within her being. She orchestrated every detail: food supplies, weaving, water gathering, like a skilled navigator steering a vessel through uncharted waters. As the weary traveler wandered by, seeking refuge from the world outside, she welcomed him with open arms, offering a humble corner of her unfinished abode and a warm bowl of stew, her kindness flowing as freely as the steam rising from the pot. For her, true strength had transformed into the essence of service. Even the children had transformed in ways that transcended mere measurements, their essence now radiating a profound presence. The eldest kept vigil under the stars, gripping a wooden staff he had skillfully carved with his own hands. In a world where creativity flourished, one individual embraced the art of mending clothing, skillfully wielding bone needles and sinew thread to breathe new life into fabric. The once timid child, who had trembled at the sound of thunder, now hummed softly as they gathered firewood. They advanced together, exhausted, soiled, bruised, yet filled with pride. The elderly woman, whose knees had almost given way during the tempest, now settled each day by the hearth, still merely a circle of stones, sharing stories not of deities or monarchs, but of unwavering spirit. She recounted the tale of the wolf's rival, emphasizing that in such moments, one should never flee but instead let out a growl that echoes through the night. In the midst of the famine, there lay a tale of ingenuity, where the clever could transform bark into sustenance through the art of boiling. The children were captivated by her every word. Yet, it was within the smallest details that the transformation revealed itself most vividly. The rain was no longer met with curses. It garnered their respect. The shadows held no terror for them anymore. They readied themselves for it, and they turned their gaze away from the flooded valley, not with sorrow, but with a deep sense of reverence. With careful hands, the man set to work on a new threshold beam, each stroke of his tool whispering tales of craftsmanship and dedication. Into it, he carved symbols not of riches, but of significance. A tree, a symbol of deep connection to the earth. A flickering ember, offering solace against the chill. A circle, symbolizing togetherness. When inquired about its significance, he responded with a calm assurance, "It is who we are now." One morning, as the family gathered around their humble breakfast of coarse bread and goat's milk, a neighbor observed, "You've changed since the waters arrived." With a gentle curve of her lips, the woman beamed with warmth. The waters remained unchanged by our presence. They revealed the essence of our true selves. And with that, the truth unfolded before our eyes. They had woven together a sanctuary upon the hill. They had transformed into something new. As the first leaves donned their golden attire, the house stood complete, a testament to time and effort. Not magnificent, imperfect, yet it belongs to them. The roof, with its thatched and uneven charm, had finally ceased to leak. The walls, a tapestry of stone and clay, stood resolute against the howling wind. Each morning, the hearth released a soft plume of smoke, while the joyous laughter of children danced down the hill, reminiscent of birdsong greeting the dawn. To any wandering soul, it may have appeared as just an unassuming cottage perched upon the hill. Yet for those who had beheld its emergence from the depths of water, from the ashes of ruin, from the brink of despair, it stood as a testament to resilience. As the sun dipped below the horizon, a figure lingered at the threshold, his hand gently caressing the beam he had painstakingly shaped months prior. The flickering firelight danced behind him, casting a tapestry of warm hues throughout the space. Once upon a time, the children gathered around the warm hearth, their laughter echoing as they engaged in a delightful game of pebbles. Once upon a time, a goat found a cozy spot by the wall and drifted into a peaceful slumber. And the old woman, a weaver of tales, sat humming a melody that had faded into silence since the snow blanketed the earth last year. The woman approached him, her hands dusted with flour as she wiped them on her apron. Her hair shimmered with streaks of silver, and her eyes held the serene wisdom of one who had faced both flood and fire, transforming trials into treasures, learning not merely to endure, but to embrace life's gifts. As they gazed upon the valley beneath them, a world of wonder unfolded. The landscape had transformed, shedding its past as a scarred wasteland. It had started to mend. Once more, the green blades of grass began to reclaim the desolate fields, weaving their way through the remnants of what once was. The neighbors had come back home. Wisps of smoke danced from chimneys scattered across the vast plain. And while the land would always remember the tempest, it had decided to embrace forgiveness. The dwelling atop the hill had transformed into something beyond mere refuge. It had transformed into a guiding light. Visitors arrived frequently not to stare, but to gain knowledge, to inquire about the secrets behind their towering creation. In the beginning, they had absolutely nothing. Their perseverance was unwavering. The man consistently replied, "We didn't begin with nothing. Our journey began with one another." They exchanged seeds, each one a promise of growth and new beginnings. Once upon a time, there were tales waiting to be told. Once upon a time, there was a simple yet profound element known as salt, guidance, and gradually, the valley transformed into something beyond mere fields and homesteads. A vibrant tapestry of connection emerged. One evening, after a long day spent aiding a neighbor in mending a collapsed roof, the eldest child gazed at the house in merely a shadow against the flickering firelight and inquired, "Do you think it was worth it?" Ah, the tempest and the heartache. The man gazed at him, taken aback by the gravity of the question. He paused, letting the silence linger before responding. Instead, he shifted his gaze toward the house. He beheld the gentle glow pouring through the windows. The gentle melody of the elderly woman floated through the air. The rich aroma of the stew danced through the air, rising from the bubbling pot on the hearth, and sensed, more than anything, the tranquility, not the lack of conflict, but the richness of having navigated it and still standing strong. At last, he declared, it wasn't the storm that forged this home. It was all that followed. And with that, the truth unfolded before us. In the midst of their loss, they stumbled upon the essence of what truly held significance, not crafted from wood, not just stone, but love, determination, and the steadfast determination to start anew. When storms arrive, they inevitably will be challenged not only our possessions, but also the very essence of who we are. They challenge the essence of our being. The flood that surged through the valley carried away walls, tools, and comforts, yet it unearthed a profound truth. Resilience is forged not in the cradle of safety. It is shaped through struggle. The family on the hill did not endure because they were mightier than the rest. They persevered, bound together as the waters surged around them. They released the vision of the future they once envisioned and welcomed the journey that lay ahead side by side. Ultimately, the tempest failed to bring about their ruin. It changed them profoundly. It stripped away the facade that power resides in material things, revealing that genuine richness is discovered in togetherness, modesty, and the bravery to reconstruct with empty hands and overflowing hearts. For home transcends mere walls and roofs. It's about the companions you choose to brave the tempest alongside. In the tapestry of our lives today, the torrents we face may not surge from rivers, but rather from the depths of job losses, the shadows of illness, or the aching pangs of heartbreak. Much like the villagers of yesteryear, we frequently find ourselves caught off guard. Yet, the tale endures. In the moments when life lays us bare, we uncover the true essence of our existence, the unwavering souls who support us, the hidden resilience we possess, and the gentle yet profound strength found in the act of beginning anew. When the tempest arrives, remember to gaze not solely at what has been taken away. Gaze upon those who remain by your side. Gather the remnants and construct more robust, more insightful, and with the understanding that true strength lies not in possessing everything. It's a tale of enduring with passion. If this tale resonated with you, share your own storm and the journey you took to navigate through it in the comments. And remember, tap that like button, share this narrative, and subscribe for more tales that unveil our true selves when all else is laid bare.